Megyn Kelly, a longtime Fox News contributor, and now sort of what do you call them? Independent media personalities, has recently started talking about Israel. And some people started criticizing her for it, and she's trying to defend herself, saying, I'm just asking questions. I just have certain things I want to ask, and I don't understand why people are calling me anti-Semitic. So today we'll take a look at one of her videos she made. We have about, I think, 6 clips that I cut out. I'll put the full video in the description if people want to watch the full thing for some reason. Joining me today are James Valiant and Stuart Margolis. Welcome to the reality show. And before we go to the first clip, I wasn't that familiar with Megyn Kelly before, but I understand she is a relatively prominent figure in American, let's say, political commentary for a long time. And since I have 2 Americans, they might know more. James, any opening thoughts before we go to the clips? And yeah, just general thoughts on Megyn
Oh,
Kelly.
Megyn Kelly is a prominent voice in American political thought on the right. She worked for Fox, she worked for the network. Now you indicate she's sort of an independent person. And so she's definitely got a platform and an audience. There's no question about that. What I find strange is her taking up this issue in this way and sort of using Charlie Kirk as the wedge. But I think we'll get into that when we see the clips. But yeah, she's become a serious voice in political commentary in America. There's no doubt about it, Daniel.
Stuart, any opening thoughts?
I, I certainly know of her. I don't follow her well. I don't know if I would characterize her as a thinker in any way. I think she is certainly a mouthpiece for other people's views. But yeah, I don't get the impression that she's a serious thinker. But as James said, she does have an audience. People do listen to her.
Yeah, it's unfortunately we are at the state of the world where the non-thinking people are the cultural leaders. Let's say if you look at the top podcasts, you would be hard pressed to find somebody who is philosophical. Yet those are the people everybody is listening to right now. So let's watch the first clip, which I think is right from the start of the video we'll be talking about.
As you may know, there is a campaign with which I've had almost nothing to do on Charlie Kirk's feelings about Israel before he was killed. We did one segment on this show last Wednesday with the guys from Fifth Column where I played 4 minutes of an exchange that Charlie and I had on August 6th about that very subject, because as far as I know, I'm one of the only ones who actually has Charlie on tape talking about that a month before he was killed. And so my position is you don't have to wonder how Charlie was feeling about the situation with Israel. Here he is on camera telling you. So that is why I ran that segment. And I explained to the audience the reason that I was doing it is because there was a lot of talk about Charlie and Israel. Candace Owens had brought it up and others had brought it up. And she had reporting about a meeting with Bill Ackman, allegedly putting pressure on Charlie to be more pro-Israel right after his Turning Point event. I've heard that same reporting from others.
Okay, so later she'll go more into why people are criticizing for, but I wanted to bring it as basically just bringing in context. People might know that after the murder of Charlie Kirk, for some reason, people like Candace Owens very quickly started making the Israel connection. Even people like Tucker Carlson, they never go as far as say Israel did it, but they very much try to say that Charlie Kirk was somehow blackmailed or was pushed into having certain positions. And here is Megyn Kelly again trying to come in as some sort of I'm uninterested figure. I'm not saying Israel did it, but for some reason, let's have a conversation about how much Charlie Kirk was pushed by Israel or by certain people like Bill Ackman. And I'm just putting this out there is what Megyn Kelly is saying. James, any thoughts to start us off?
Well, that someone like Ackman telling you his opinion and wanting to persuade you of his position is somehow nefarious pressure is kind of bizarre to me. I have a conversation with you and I say, geez, Candace Owens, a nut on Tucker Carlson's unreasonable on this. So I'm putting some kind of nefarious pressure on you if I have a conversation with someone about platforming people like that. I mean, just right there. And then the whole reason why she's bringing this up is because what, Candace Owen made an issue of it? So the whole reason why we're here discussing it is because Candace Owen thinks it's important that Charlie Kirk was not an unabashed supporter of Israel. Okay, well, that should tell you something about what Megyn Kelly's motives are here. Megyn Kelly's motives here are to precisely open up the debate, the legitimate parameters of that debate, to people like Candace Owen, as we will hear later, Tucker Carlson, which is deeply offensive on many counts. We've done many shows on Tucker Carlson and Candace Owen, and I hope maybe we can put links to them in. It's not a reasonable position that they're taking. It is in fact an anti-Semitic position they're taking. Candace Owen is. I would advise her to get some sort of professional mental health counseling. I don't like psychologizing, but she's reached the point of complete detachment from reality. And the sanctioning of that kind of attack on Israel is, in effect, what we're doing through the back door here. Candace Owen brings it up, therefore it's worthy of discussing. And Candace Owen brings it up in the context of Charlie Kirk, who just got killed. And so, of course, we all should take another look at our own views on Israel. I find that despicable, just bottom line.
Yeah, and there is this whole discussion about, how was Charlie Kirk pushed? And I hate when people are super vague about what it means, because, somebody being pressured into something. I mean, it can be anything from, like we said, somebody like Bill Ackman, or I don't think Bill Ackman was even the person who had the problem with Tucker Carlson, but I think we know that somebody told Charlie Kirk that he had a problem with Tucker Carlson being on one of the Turning Point USA events. It can be anything from that, which again is just an opinion, something you say, hey, we are leading a certain movement. I don't think Tucker Carlson is helping this movement. It can be something like that. From anything to, Mossad is holding Charlie Kirk's family hostage. And all of those are basically on the spectrum of, well, Charlie Kirk was pushed. But Stuart, any thoughts to start us off with this clip?
Well, I mean, yes, this is the whole sort of MO of this kind of media. We're just asking questions, and this sort of vague, not defining what we mean, but it allows in the door the crazy. And we've seen this over and over. I mean, someone like Candace Owen, and now at this point, Tucker Carlson, should be just completely ignored by rational people. Anything they say, does not need a response at this point. They've proven themselves to be completely irrational. So Megyn Kelly, responding to Candace Owen is itself a kind of sanction, and it's despicable. It's letting. I don't think that. I mean, we'll get into this more. I don't necessarily believe that Megyn Kelly is anti-Semitic. I mean, I don't know her, but I don't know that there's any evidence that she is. But she's opening the door for anti-Semitism by giving any sort of legitimacy to these kinds of voices.
Yeah, let's watch the next clip.
Was put out by the American Jewish Committee. They purport to stand for the rights of American Jews across the world. And this was after Charlie's event, at which I said nothing about Israel. It was at the Turning Point event. We were talking all about Epstein. And he said, do you think he's intel? And I said, it seems like he was some sort of an asset being used as intel, probably Mossad. That was my guess, since Ehud Barak had been spending the nights in Jeffrey Epstein's home. It seemed like he was very close with Israelis and their leaders. And there's an Israeli guy who specifically said Epstein was Mossad. He was a Mossad asset, and that this guy was his handler. I had an argument about this with Ben Shapiro. So look, I wasn't saying for sure. I was saying he could be ours, could be theirs. That's it. That's literally it. And this American Jewish Committee puts out the following. Charlie Kirk and Megyn Kelly floated the baseless conspiracy theory that Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent and admitted that they had no evidence. That doesn't matter because what people will remember is the lie. This isn't just irresponsible. It's a textbook example of how right-wing anti-Semitism spreads through conspiracies dressed up as innocent speculation. They gave oxygen to an age-old trope of Jewish control, and in today's climate, that's not just offensive, it's dangerous. So strongly object to that.
So here is where I think dishonesty starts. The fact that she doesn't see or that she's faking, that she doesn't know what's going on. Well, first, completely at the start, she said that this organization is for fighting for the rights of American Jews across the world, which I found a funny way to phrase that. But she said, I said nothing about Israel, but Jeffrey Epstein, one of the most controversial figures in American news for the last few years, or at least discussed. I mean, the Jeffrey Epstein list is still being talked about right now. He was a Mossad agent. He was a tool of an Israeli state, the only Jewish state. But I said nothing about Israel, and I have no idea why people are talking about me. I mean, James, is she really, does she really not see what she's saying?
People have a moral responsibility for what they say, especially what they say in public. And what she's saying here is she's floating here a total conspiracy theory that is anti-Israel. I mean, the idea that somehow the government is suppressing the Epstein, I mean, you'll get the chain going on here. The Trump administration is continuing to suppress the release of the Epstein files. Why? Because he's an intelligence asset for America or for Israel. Well, look at Ehud Barak was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein. Therefore, QED, we can conclude that Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad, asset. I think is the term they use in the biz. Mossad asset. Well, that is a total conspiracy theory. It's an anti-Israel conspiracy theory. It's of the kind that Tucker Carlson will say when he says that America's whole foreign policy is beholden to Israel. Israel calls the shots with American policy. Tucker Carlson says that every time he opens his mouth about Israel, as if the Jews control America. It sounds like, those really alt-right wackos, she's really approaching those alt-right wackos who say, quote, Jews and homosexuals control American foreign policy. Well, that is insane. That's a conspiracy theory. It comes from these wackos like Tucker Carlson and still worse, Nick Fuentes, and she's giving it the time of day. That is morally irresponsible because it is epistemologically irresponsible. She is floating a conspiracy theory. And right now, using the sympathy that people have because of Charlie. Look at the dots she's putting together. The sympathy because of Charlie Kirk's death connected to something Charlie Kirk said, where she did publicly float irresponsibly a conspiracy theory that the Epstein files, in effect, are being suppressed because Epstein was a Mossad asset. That is, as a journalist, irresponsible. And it is morally irresponsible. I mean, we have a war going on right now in Gaza. And for her to be floating these kind of irresponsible conspiracy theories is morally despicable, in my view.
Yeah, I want to make the comment about, I call this jacking off, the JAQ-ing, just asking questions. There is a proper epistemology when it comes to, you want to learn about stuff, even when it comes to controversial thing. When there started being the Holocaust conspiracism, I was genuinely interested. Okay, where do we get the number 6 million from? And if you want to know that, you can actually go look into. Okay, it's these couple of organizations that got the lists from the German government, from the Polish government, and you can actually find an answer. But this is not what these people who peddle conspiracies are doing. They say, I ask question, but that's the end. Their asking questions is the whole thing. You are supposed to assume already something nefarious about it. So, I mean, when it comes to proper epistemology, it has to start with something. It's not just random, okay, I'll just make up a question, whatever it is, with absolutely no basis, and let's see where we go. No, you need actually, when you, and this is, if you have a proper epistemology. When you ask question, you usually are looking for something specific, you have a certain goal in mind, you have a certain context already in place, and you are just trying to get more information in this context. Stuart, is this what people like her are doing when they ask questions about, let's say specifically the Charlie Kirk murder.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is, I think, a huge, huge problem in American politics is right now it's particularly egregious on the right, but certainly the left has been guilty of it as well. Just popping up arbitrary assertions and using that to guide people in a certain way in the absence of any evidence. And people, by and large, it seems, don't understand the need for evidence and the complete the fact that an arbitrary assertion is meaningless. Most people don't understand that, and that is a huge problem. So Megyn can claim that, oh, I'm just asking questions, just raising this, but she knows perfectly well that by raising these questions in the absence of any evidence, she is presenting a certain narrative or suggesting a certain approach. And it is like I said, she may not be an anti-Semite, but this approach demonizes Israel, assumes that the old Jewish, the old trope that the Jews are controlling everything, that they're acting behind the scenes. It is dangerous. I think she's too smart to really not know that.
Yeah, and even this idea of asking questions, you can only ask questions for so long. I mean, when I ask questions, I go to whatever, Wikipedia, ChatGPT, or ideally actually read the books on the topic. If I have questions about the Civil War, well, I go read the book about Civil War. I don't continuous. If I have a even question about, as I said, the 6 million Jews, I actually go and look into, okay, where is it from? But if the Charlie Kirk murder already happened few weeks ago, if you are still more information came out about this, about the murderer, about the motivations, everything. We have the killer. He will go to the trial. Well, it will be proven there if he did it, but we have a lot of evidence going in that way. Absolutely no evidence going in the Israeli route. How are you still asking questions when more information came to mind? James,
the theory is out there that Mossad was behind, the really wacko conspiracy here. Mossad was behind the killing of Charlie Kirk. Now, she doesn't say that, but you consider when you ask questions, it's really interesting. Well, I'm just merely asking questions. There are such things as morally irresponsible questions. Everyone knows the loaded question fallacy, right? How long have you been beating your wife? It assumes that you've been beating your wife, in effect.
But
when you ask questions like that, yeah, exactly. So are they suppressing the Epstein files because Epstein was a Mossad asset? By floating that very question, she's being irresponsible, and it's a kind of a how long have you been beating your wife kind of question. It is for a journalist, asking questions is where the moral and epistemological responsibility begins. It begins with, because you can't ask every question about every subject, any speculation, as Stewart says, my God, arbitrary assertions. I could go, I don't have enough time. I could go on for an indefinite, potentially infinite amount of time if you bring up arbitrary possibilities here with the questions. The questions themselves have to be responsibly fact-based. And here she's departed from that altogether. And as a journalist, that is her moral responsibility. That's her profession.
Yeah, people in the chat are talking about the benefit of the doubt for her, and even she brings it up later. But that's like when people talk about the benefit of doubt for Trump. I mean, when you have a certain level of authority, you do not get the benefit of the doubt. You have too much power, you have too much authority. Megyn Kelly has, I think, 4 million views on YouTube. You do have a responsibility to be right. If you are simply asking questions, okay, go into civilian life, so-called. Go, stop being this professional. Even when I come on the show, and we have much smaller audience than she is, I try to really make sure my statements are not going too far. I do not make crazy assumptions, that I do go off from what people say. The idea that that there should simply be no responsibility, that we have no expectations of people, that this is, politics or journalism is just a game we play, and sometimes you get wrong. Sometimes you report that Israel has killed 500 people at a hospital. Oh, oops, we were wrong because we were quoting Hamas. This is a life and death scenarios, and the fact that people have turned from that into basically this is almost like a game. We just had the government shutdown, and in America, not in Slovakia, and the idea that this is just fun. Let's see what happens is scary and will cost people lives. So people trying to say, well, let's just give her benefit of the doubt. Let's be calm. No, she should get it right. And if Candace Owens is going crazy and she doesn't see it, that makes me question her journalistic integrity, if we want to call it that. Any thoughts from you guys, or should we go to the next clip?
You can go to the next clip, but
Yeah,
I mean,
go ahead.
yeah.
Okay, let's see.
I'm sorry that there are tropes about Jews. I've been fighting against them for years. It's bullshit. I hate anti-Semitism. Honestly, I've seen what my Jewish friends have gone through over the past 2 years, so they have to worry about getting killed when they go to temple. It's absurd. It's terrible what's happened on college campuses, the tearing down of the hostage posters. I mean, I've been at the forefront in criticizing it. But to say that in speculating about why Jeffrey Epstein got away with so much, maybe he was intel. And I didn't just say about Israel. It was like, I don't know whose he was. Mossad could make sense. We could make sense. That's crazy talk. You can't have every speculation about Israel or mild criticism of Israel turn into anti-Semitism. All along, people have been saying, the Israeli defenders, you can criticize Israel, just don't be anti-Semitic. Well, don't try to take a criticism of Israel and make it anti-Semitism, because it upsets people who love our Jewish friends and love Israel. Just stop. So Charlie was offended. He didn't like it, and I didn't like it.
So she starts, and this will come up a bit later in later clips, but she starts talking about, I've stood up against anti-Semitism. I've defended Israel, as if that is, and I think this comes from altruistic standard, as if this is like something you've gave to somebody else and now you deserve something. You should only support Israel if it's in your rational self-interest. You should only defend against, fighting against anti-Semitism should be like basic decency, not something Jews owe you back for, I haven't committed a pogrom. Why do I not get some support from people? James?
Well, that's it. We're telling, look, I didn't join in these awful racist lies of the Nazis of the past, and therefore I deserve some special credit. You're absolutely right. Acknowledging the truth for what it is and dismissing nonsense for what it is does not give you now the ability, the moral leeway to speculate. And that's the word she used. So that any speculation against Israel is yes. Speculation, anti-Israel speculation, is in fact not responsible. It is epistemologically not responsible, and you know how the anti-Semites out there react and use it. So as a journalist, you ought not to speculate, Ms. Kelly. Let me stress that for you. Speculation is bad. And when it's during a time of war, when Israel is at war with Hamas, this anti-Israel speculation can be seen and will be used by anti-Semites. So no, have we on this channel been critical of Netanyahu? We sure have. Being critical of Israel does not equate to anti-Semitism. That's a given. It certainly is the nature of the kind of criticism of Israel that's involved here. And this kind of criticism, she frankly admits, is speculation. So she's admitting that she's, trafficking in speculation against Israel, and she wonders why people would think that anti-Semitic right now. No, that's totally irresponsible. And anti-Israel speculation is anti-Semitic in this context, especially with the people that she's talking about, Candace Owen, Tucker Carlson, that group. So no, speculation in general would be irresponsible for a journalist. Speculation in this context could well be seen as anti-Semitic. Now, I agree with Stuart. She may be confused. I'm not going to say that she herself is anti-Semitic, but on the other hand, she's trafficking in material that I know the anti-Semites out there in social media are going to exploit.
Yeah, and again, when it comes to having a discussion or speculating about something, okay, what is your goal? Supposedly, the goal is to find out what is actually true. If you have something where you have no evidence for, you are basically, I mean, I don't know what to even call it. I'm sure Ayn Rand had some good way of describing it. But this basically being in your mind, completely disconnected from reality and just thinking about things with, again, no basis, no evidence, and basically no even goal. Like there is no way to resolute, like, okay, she's thinking about Epstein being a Mossad agent or being a CIA agent, supposedly, is the other idea. Okay, at what point will she decide if this is true or not? Or will it be forever this kind of, we're just thinking about it? Stuart?
Yeah, I mean, to me, although certainly James is absolutely right that this will be used by anti-Semites, but to me, the larger issue, like I said, I don't believe she probably herself is anti-Semitic, but the larger issue, and it's not just Megyn Kelly, it's everywhere right now, is what you're talking about. It's this bad epistemology. It's this idea that we can just speculate about whatever nonsense, we want, without the goal of ever actually finding answers, without digging for evidence and facts. The speculation is the point. That is incredibly dangerous. And that is, unfortunately, what our leaders have promoted in recent years. I mean, that's a topic for a whole nother show, but this whole thing with Trump going on television and Tylenol is causing autism. It's like, it's just completely irresponsible speculation, and it will cost lives. It ends up being, that's has nothing to do with anti-Semitism, but it's the same epistemology, and it will lead to death. It will lead to destruction, and it's everywhere. And that's what she's promoting. And anti-Semitism, yes, that's part of it, but it's a wider problem in the culture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the collapse of journalistic objectivity in recent years is noteworthy. Both sides are fully guilty of it. But my God, Stuart makes a great point, whether it's the bizarre statements about medicine and science that we get from the Trump administration, or, let me just leave it there. We are being fed a diet of utter speculation and arbitrary assertions from our leaders on both sides. It's very disturbing when it comes from the government of the United States, but that's where we are right now. So it should be a whole other show. The collapse of objectivity, the rise of conspiracy thinking. It's very disturbing and getting worse.
Yeah, and just to build upon it more, I mean, I guess we can mention the Tylenol story. I'm not sure if we covered it fully at all, but it's that sort of, it's always such a vilified way or like conspiracy way of thinking about it. Because, does a certain drug endanger women or her child during pregnancy? It's a okay question that have been done research, but it's always put in a way of either conspiracy, like these people, they want you to die and you need to defend yourself against it. It's like, well, if it's bad, we can just say, okay, it's bad, you probably shouldn't do that. Or you know you can bring objectivity, but it always is in this either tribalistic way of it's us versus them, or in this like vilified thing, or even in this weird way. I mean, if we can go back maybe to something like Doge, right? Even that was like, oh, they want to do these terrible things, and it's like, okay, like everybody realistically wants to get rid of fraud in government. If we just take it in a normal way, I think you can get more people behind it than completely vilifying the other side, as we unfortunately see more and more in American politics. Next clip. Let's see.
In which I made very clear, of course, I am not playing this soundbite from Charlie because I think Israel had any relevance whatsoever when it comes to Charlie's assassination. As you know, I'm really clear on who killed Charlie. I believe that it was this trans guy. Well, guy dating the trans guy. And the Fifth Column and I had the following exchange around that Charlie soundbite and around some of the reporting about the Bill Ackman meeting, again, which I took no position on. I wasn't there. Watch this. It's Hot 49.
I wonder why, before Charlie Kirk had been buried, the number of people that were talking about Israel. That's the thing that concerns me about why this is coming up. Why is it about the pet issue that she's been talking about, I think, obsessively for every time I tune in to, like, in these totally crazy ways? I mean, the guy Ian
Well, I don't know
Carroll,
if this is
who
true
the
of
host-
Candace.
Well,
But
I
obviously
think it
some
is,
people,
by the way.
no, but I was just going to say, but some people obviously were wondering whether Israel had a hand in this. I mean, that's clearly why it's come up, and there's
And that's
zero
clearly why
evidence of that.
Netanyahu
So okay, well, something I've noticed about the right that I'll just mention at the start is this like obsession with like trans people. Because what was her like? What was her essential about the murder of Charlie Kirk? Whatever like trans connection she could find. But separately, she talks about I'm not saying Israel did it. I'm taking no position later, and it's like, well, take a position. And then when she's being called out on it, well, technically Candace Owens was being brought up about it, that she's talking about it every day, and Megyn Kelly comes in defense that no, I don't think she's talking about it. She's just wondering whether Israel is involved. And again, where is this wondering come from? You need to have, and this is again coming to people talked about earlier about the benefit of the doubt. Somebody came to her and said, Candace Owens weirdly talks about Israel a lot whenever she can. And what does she do? Is she asking questions about Candace Owens? Is she wondering, does Candace Owens have a certain slight to her? No, she defends her and says, she's just wondering whether Israel is involved, with no evidence, with no thing to go in there. Conservatives oftentimes talk about the left-wing bias, no talking about Candace's bias towards Israel. James?
I didn't raise the issue of whether Charlie Kirk was killed by Israelis. I didn't raise it, but I did defend Candace Owen when she raised the issue. Then she gives us the clip within the clip there where she leaps to Candace Owens' defense as Candace Owen is asking the same question. So I didn't ask the question, Megyn Kelly says, about whether Israel killed Charlie Kirk. I have nothing to say about that. But during this conversation, this guy says, well, why is it that it's brought up? Well, Candace Owen, she's just now it's Megyn Kelly's turn to say, well, Candace Owen is just asking questions. No, for the record, Candace Owen has these bizarre anti-Semitic theories about the origin of Zionism and the origin of Israel that really are lunatic asylum kind of material. She believes the most bizarre things about Israel, Zionism, the Jews, the origin of Israel. She's basically a flat earther. For her, the Enlightenment is a myth. For her, science is, to be rejected outright. She's not going to play that game anymore. How did she put it? For her, space is fake and gay. And notice again, we come back to matters sexual. So space is gay and fake. The Enlightenment is a myth. She's not going to play the game of science anymore. This woman is like a flat earther. To give her the sanction, to give Candace Owen the time of day, I may as well walk into the county psychiatric hospital, walk up to a psychotic paranoid delusion patient and ask them their opinion on the issues of the day. Honestly. So what she's doing is she's saying, I didn't say Israel killed Charlie Kirk. I would never do that. But then she plays a clip of her actually leaping in to defend Candace Owen as Candace Owen is implying that. You can't hide it like that, Miss Kelly. If it's wrong for you to do it, it's wrong for Candace to do it, and your defense of Candace doing it is wrong. But a broader issue, Candace Owen, Megyn Kelly, she is a whack job, disconnected from the facts of reality.
Somebody in the chat says there is zero evidence. She's quoting, there is zero evidence for Israel being involved, and saying we are getting Megyn Kelly wrong. something to know about the world is you'll never, from the evil side, you'll never get a clear, saying I am evil. You can actually call me evil. It will always like somebody like Candace Owens being so outwardly anti-Semitic, or even somebody like Tucker Carlson. That is pretty rare. That's not how the world is destroyed. That's not how politics get destroyed, that these really evil people get power. It's when decent people or people on the side of it start defending those people. And this is what Megyn Kelly is doing. Yeah, she might say there is zero evidence of Israel being involved. Why are you keep bringing it up? Why are you like James said, why are you defending Candace Owens bringing that up? Even, okay, you do not want to completely give up on Candace because, Candace Owens is a long-time conservative involved in the movement. Maybe you do not want to break that relationship for whatever reason, but you should disavow this. It's a completely baseless accusation. Do the left versus right test. What would you say if somebody on the left defended? I cannot even bring up an alternative. Like somebody defending BLM riots when they get violent or something like that. Would you give them the same amount of benefit of the doubt, or would you automatically consider them evil, or would you consider that a problem? Stuart?
Yeah, what James said, even if you don't keep up with Candace Owens, this is a woman who publicly said she doesn't want to take a position on whether the earth is flat or not. She's open to the possibility of a flat earth. This woman should be shunned from public discourse. She is mentally ill, probably, certainly, or just, well, she's not a moron. That's the thing. So it has to be some sort of mental illness. But yeah, she should not be given a platform. She should not be paid attention to. But I think we do have to mention, we talked about it before, the fact that Netanyahu, went on television and denied the involvement of Israel, essentially gave oxygen to that crazy assertion. I think it would have been much better to just ignore it because it was completely nuts and baseless. But he didn't. And so, yeah, people like Megyn Kelly feel like, okay, well, then we can continue to bring it up and give oxygen to this nutty idea.
Yeah, we talked about the Benjamin Netanyahu. He didn't name Candace Owens specifically, but he clearly was talking about her and about people who bring up the Israeli conspiracy when it comes to the murder of Charlie Kirk, which again has zero evidence. It's like Benjamin Netanyahu responding to 9/11 was committed by the Jews, or JFK killing was committed by the Jews. Are you going to answer to every single conspiracy? Because there's a bunch of them about the Jews.
Right, you just do that all day.
Endlessly. And that's a really good point. The normal strategy with truly arbitrary assertions should be you ignore it. You treat it, as Dr. Peikoff says in Objectivism, the philosophy of Ayn Rand, treat it as though it's a parrot squawking. It's really just the sounds coming, emanating from an animal that you might recognize it as a language you understand, but really it's just a bird squawking with zero meaning and substance. That should be the correct stress for the president of Israel, the prime minister of Israel, to say that. You should ignore the arbitrary. Do not give it the time of day. And it was, I think, a mistake. Good point Stuart made right there. The way you should treat it, especially if you're a prime minister, is to ignore arbitrary assertions as if nothing were said.
Yeah, again, because play that conversation in your head. Let's say somebody like Candace Owens gets to talk to Benjamin Netanyahu. Candace Owens starts talking about Israel playing some role or doing something. I think even Candace didn't say outright that Israel did it, but she's also just asking questions. She starts talking about Israeli involvement or potential Israeli involvement. And, Benjamin Netanyahu talks to her, gives her evidence that no, this was committed by these people, and Charlie Kirk was positive towards Israel. Do you think Candace Owens afterwards would say, oh, okay, I was wrong, I'm sorry. Let me make a video changing my opinion and let me delete the old ones? No, there is when it comes to arbitrary assertions or conspiracism, there is no way to really. I mean, you could potentially debunk a lot of, let's say, 9/11 conspiracism. You could debunk a bunch of those points, but it's not like if you debunk all of them, suddenly they'll turn, because it was never about, finding the truth. It was always about the conspiracy itself. Anything to add, or should we watch next one?
We can watch the next.
And there's zero evidence of that, is what I said. Then I went on Tucker's show, his live show that Wednesday night, and said exactly the same thing. Zero evidence. I said, I don't believe, and I know you don't believe, that Israel had anything to do with Charlie's murder. But we talked about that same strain of like, why is there so much pressure against people who say other things about Israel that are not flattering? Yes, Tucker's gotten more and more critical of Israel. Separate now out the Charlie thing. He's gotten very critical of Israel because he is worried about what's happening to Christians over there. And he's very worried that the United States is going to get pulled into that war like we almost were when they launched a side war against Iran. He's entitled to say that. And when I went on Tucker's show, he and I talked about like the level of pressure on Charlie and on me to like cancel our friends, to stop talking to Tucker. Charlie, I respect Candace. I don't know her personally, but I'm dear friends with Tucker. But I've certainly had pressure to completely cut ties with Tucker. And I know Charlie had pressure to completely cut ties with Candace.
May I just say, I'm sorry, I've got to intervene.
No. Let me just quickly, because I think I earlier said that Megyn Kelly is friends with Candace Owens. So I made a mistake. I was thinking
she's a real friend with Tucker, but she knows Candace and respects Candace. You did notice that she respects Candace, and she decries the pressure put on Tucker to dissociate himself with Candace. Now, Tucker's bad enough. Tucker thinks that anyone who's in the an American citizen who goes and fights for the IDF because they have joint citizenship with Israel should lose their American citizenship simply because, I mean, think of the bizarre things that have come out of Tucker Carlson's mouth that are anti-Israel. But the point is, what I really wanted to jump on was when she said Israel started a side war with Iran. That is the most morally outrageous thing to come out of her mouth in this interview. Iran were 90% of Hamas's funding, 90+% of Hezbollah's funding, the Houthis, you name it. It was a coordinated effort from the start. October 7th was brought to you by Iran. And if you can't get to the root of the problem from Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and get to the root of it with Iran, and you can claim, you let the words even escape your mouth that Israel started the war with Iran, that is morally outrageous. And it is also a defense of Iranian aggression, as if Iran did not beg for an attack. And, oh yeah, I can criticize Netanyahu and Israel and America. We didn't do nearly enough when it came to Iran. The source of all this evil and the source of this problem, the origins, the many-headed Hydra has one body, and it's called the Islamic Republic of Iran, and they've been killing Americans and Israelis for decades now, in the hundreds, and they're the ones behind all this. The idea that Israel started the war with Iran is itself bullshit, Miss Kelly, itself anti-Israel nonsense, and morally reprehensible to even say out loud. Excuse me, I just got me really upset when Megyn Kelly said that Israel started a side war with Iran. That is just morally despicable, epistemologically disgusting, and she can claim to be a friend of Israel, but she ain't no friend of Israel. As I say, I think Stuart's right about anti-Semitism. I should be careful about making those kind of judgments. But right there, she accused Israel of starting a war with Iran. Nonsense. Evil nonsense. Irresponsible, evil nonsense. Don't quite know how to put it in stronger terms, but italics, underline, in bold. That was really outrageous.
And even in Megyn Kelly is not anti-Semitic. She's absolutely peddling a few a few anti-Semitic ideas. Something that's interesting is when people say you can't even criticize Israel, and what they always say afterwards is not a genuine criticism of Israel. is usually some anti-Semitic thing. It's like, oh, you cannot even criticize Israel. You cannot even talk about how it was created by a pedophilic society and they drink the blood of the goyim. It's like, well, okay, yeah, you might be called anti-Semitic afterwards. Now, this is not what
Look,
Megyn.
I'm just asking whether they're genocidal pedophiles.
Yeah, now this is not specifically what Megyn Kelly is saying, but look at what she said. As you said, started a war or started a side war completely. Now this might just be her being wrong, although she shouldn't be wrong about this. But what was the other thing she said? Worried about Christians. Like you are pulling the conspiracy idea about that what Israel is killing Christians specifically because they are being Christian is and this is something that Tucker Carlson has been peddling, this anti-Semitic idea and pulled into war. Another anti-Semitic idea, the idea that the Israeli society is controlling the American president or the American society and is basically controlling the foreign policy of America. So yeah, if you have genuine criticism of Israel, okay, but if you basically just repeat anti-Semitic views or things that anti-Semites tell you about Israel, then yeah, you will be called anti-Semitic. You will be called, and I would bring just quickly, I would bring again the idea of earlier of when she says that she's been pro-Israel for so long. Again, the principles are not something that you like level up or get a certain amount and okay, I've been principled for some time, now I can finally enjoy being unprincipled. No, it's I think I had the idea of and well, this is a great time to remind people about the Irreplaceable Spark Conference. Check out objectivism.co.uk to learn more about it. James will be there and I'll be there, and I'll meet James there, and let's say we've met before and I do something like slap him and he's like, whoa, what are you doing? And I'll be like, what do you mean? I haven't slapped you before so many times. Why are you now criticizing me for now doing it? Yeah, because it's a principle thing. If like because you haven't been anti-Semitic for so long, or because you haven't been or because you have been principled when it comes to Israel, or had the right idea about Israel for so long, doesn't mean that now you can peddle a few anti-Semitic conspiracies or a few anti-Semitic ideas just because, well, I've been principled enough. Now I want to enjoy myself a bit. Stuart, any thoughts?
That's a great way of putting it. I just, I don't understand. She seems like a bright woman. I don't understand how she doesn't understand why people are upset with her. But it seems that she doesn't. Yeah, and I had the same reaction that James did when she had did that little throwaway comment about Iran. I was like, what the? Yeah, I mean it really was just to throw. Oh yeah, and by the way, they started a side war, and yeah.
Yeah, and something that she brought up earlier is the idea of canceling their friends. And that is something that, like, I would ask her, like, what are your friends about, or what is your goal? I'm not saying because you disagree with somebody, now you have to break it off. I mean, I probably disagree about something with every person on this channel. But if the disagreement was something as fundamental as, like, they are anti-Semitic, or, they have really corrupted epistemology, or they are peddling conspiracism. I mean, even let's say, Trump is the number one sort of difference between a lot of objectivists. It would be different if you've voted for Trump, you don't like him now, you have problem with few of his policies, you might be okay with some of his policies. It's the difference between that and basically supporting him exactly because of his doing. That's a difference of why do you have a problem with certain person. It would be something if, let's say, somebody is anti-Israel in a way that they are ignorant about the issue, or they are not really even into politics, right? You have a friend that might not be even into politics and simply listens to what people on the campuses say. There's a difference between that and between Tucker Carlson inviting people on his channel, actively promoting anti-Semitism, actively promoting Nazi revisionism, World War II revisionism. It's a difference of who do you want to be, what company do you keep? James, any thoughts on that?
Well, that's just it. Disagreement is, you're right. There's a wide range of disagreement. There are many issues about which even reasonable objectivists can disagree about. But yeah, when you get to a point of like Candace Owen or Tucker Carlson, you have reached another. And then, of course, there's Megyn Kelly being, look, they're just asking questions. They're pressuring me. There's some kind of unique pressure on me. Well, yeah, expect pressure when people say things like Candace Owen and Tucker Carlson. And there comes a point, even when you disagree with someone. I mean, I think of right now, for example, Dr. Leonard Peikoff. I mean, he used to be able to listen to and be entertained by, even if he sometimes disagreed with Candace Owen. It's reached the point where he can't even listen. She's evil as far as he's concerned. They've crossed a line between disagreement, and it's interesting. But now Candace Owen has long since fallen off his moral radar screen. He can't even abide listening to her anymore, the sound of her voice, in effect. But I mean, that's what happens, though. I mean, there's a difference between, okay, we have a difference of opinion on this issue or that issue. You have some interesting information to provide, and that could come from the left or the right, frankly. And it's not that I'm sanctioning those sources even that I disagree with when I say, well, I paid attention to this person or I paid attention to that person, whether they're on the left or the right. There comes a point when someone crosses a moral line or a line of insanity where you have to be able to say, no, I will not sanction that anymore. And Megyn Kelly doesn't recognize that there is such a thing, I think, as morally sanctioning truly evil and irresponsible ideas. Otherwise, she would recognize that, look, I'm not going to stop my friendship with Tucker Carlson, and I'm still going to respect Candace Owen. No, you are responsible for that too, Megyn Kelly. That reflects on your views, Megyn Kelly. If you say Israel started a side war with Iran, that reflects on your views, Megyn Kelly. And I'm not saying that Megyn Kelly's reached the point of Candace Owen yet, where it's evil and we turn off our media platform like Dr. Leonard Peikoff has with Candace Owen long ago. But there comes a point, isn't there, when the nonsense becomes so evil that we shut off the media and we do not even mention that person. For Megyn Kelly, there is no cutoff. There's no point at which even listening to the person is impossible because they've fallen off a moral cliff.
Yeah, I would only add, and then I'll go to you, Stuart, is, when it comes to friendships, it is about values. When it comes to politics, let's say as somebody who might want to immigrate into US, I'm already, because of my values, I'm already tinted towards one party more than the other, right? But what values are you really, and I can still share values with people we disagree with that, or people can have values that put them more towards the other side. But what values are you sharing with somebody like Tucker Carlson, who is anti-Semitic, who is peddling this really, I mean, when it comes to epistemology, right, this really corrupted way of thinking, what values are you sharing with such a person that you want to stay friends with them? Stuart?
I suspect that Megyn Kelly does have lines that she would draw. I think the real issue is that the lines are not where they ought to be. I think she's much more aligned with Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson than she wants us to think. I suspect if either of those suddenly had a conversion and became Ayn Rand free market capitalists, suddenly she would not be their friend anymore. I think it's that her line is just in the wrong place. The other thing is this idea that somehow it's illegitimate to put pressure on someone because of their views. Again, it's this equivocation of what is pressure. Are you being threatened? Is your family being threatened by Mossad? Or are you just getting frequent emails and messages saying, dude, what the hell are you doing? There's a big difference between those two things. And there's a lot of equivocation in between.
Yeah, and I think something she brought up was like he's entitled, isn't Tucker Carlson entitled to his opinion? And whenever somebody says, doesn't he have a right to say that, or doesn't he, yeah, have to right to have that opinion? People need to realize that saying that is shutting down speech, because you're basically saying he has a right to say it, and you have no right to say anything about it.
Respond.
That
Right.
is
You don't have a right
exactly
to
what it
respond.
is saying.
Yeah.
Right. I have a right to morally denounce it in the loudest terms possible, too. Yes. They have a right to say it. They don't have a right to anybody's platform to say it. And they don't have a right to my respect for saying it. And they don't have any right to stop me from saying it. Well, they have a right to say it. What a ridiculous response. Really, in just about any context, unless I am forcing you, unless I have pulled out a gun,
Right.
or I'm using the government to censor you, unless there really is force involved, your right to say that really hasn't come up at all, has it? I'm just simply disagreeing and using my right to express myself.
So we have one more clip, so let's watch that and then we can wrap up.
And let's face it, Charlie was like an unofficial spokesperson for the youth of America, in particular conservative youth. And I don't know if people have checked, but they no longer support Israel. And everybody under 30 is against Israel. Charlie was 31. And so as a friend, he's saying to them, as same way I, as a friend, am saying, I am telling you, you've lost Dems independence and you're starting to lose Republicans. You need to wrap it up. You've had a 2-year long leash. I know you want your hostages back, but this cannot go on until you have every hostage back. It's just not going to, you're going to lose every friend you have. And that's what he was saying, because that's what he was hearing from his constituency. I, like you, have zero belief that this had anything to do with his death.
So I haven't followed conservatives or sort of like 2000 or early 2010s conservatives that closely, but this is what conservatives in America stand for. That yeah, there is the right thing to do. So for Israel, there is the right thing to do in Gaza, but a bunch of Democrats or independents don't like what Israel is doing. Shouldn't Israel change? Shouldn't Israel compromise its values to do something else? I mean, James, is this the
If
so-called
Charlie Kirk was
conservatives?
saying that, then Charlie Kirk was doing the young people of America a great disservice. And he may have, if he was influencing, you've got 2 years, you need to wrap it up. You're not going to get all your hostages back. Now, I could have saved my real emotion. I know that a sideboard with Iran comment got me upset, but this really is the cherry on the parfait right here. Wrap it up, Israel. You may not even get all your hostages back. You've got to stop it. And why? It's a pure argument from authority, ad populum, kind of logical fallacy, because you're losing young people's opinion. Well, if you were losing young people's opinion, then maybe that was Charlie Kirk's fault, that we were losing young people having a clean, fact-based, objective opinion about Israel. My God, wrap it up. And she does this little wrap it up. You may not get all your hostages back. The American right now, this is where I think the mask slips, and what Stuart said before is correct. I think yes, she frames it in terms of that, well, I'm not going to lose a friend just because I disagree. And that indicates there is no horizon point which she would lose the friend. But I think there is. And I think if it was an objectivist, she would suddenly find her moral backbone again, for what it's worth. But here she really lets it slip. She has gotten sucked in to this kind of anti-Israel stuff that's coming from the right, has poisoned her and has infected her thinking. And you can see it right here. Yes, this should have been wrapped up more than, 2 years is way too long. Israel should have been much stronger and fiercer way back in 2023 when this should have been taken care of. So 2 years, yeah, that is too long. But I criticize Israel from another angle on that. Does that mean that the war is over? Hamas is destroyed? The hostages are back? Israel is secure? No, that has to be the test, Ms. Kelly. We don't wrap up wars simply because we've given you a long leash. Young people tend to oppose you now. It is moral savagery that she's arguing here. And it is a pure primacy of, to use objectivist terms, primacy of consciousness argument. Well, young people are against us. No, and that, young people's opinion isn't a reality in itself, a primary that you can't, an irreducible primary. Young people were moved on the right, were moved in this direction by people like Candace Owen, Tucker Carlson, and now Megyn Kelly.
Yeah, just quickly, because somebody brought it in the chat. I don't think Charlie Kirk said anything like Israel should wrap it up. This is Megyn Kelly telling Israel
Yes.
what to do. Stuart, any thoughts from you on this?
I just am appalled by the flippancy. Wrap it up is what you say when someone speaks too long at the Oscars. This is a war. This is people's lives. These are hostages' lives, and her just sort of wrap it up. It's appalling. As James said, it's morally appalling. It just goes to how deeply unserious a lot of these people really are. They don't take ideas seriously. It's pragmatism. It's what's popular. Oh, we've got to keep the youth vote. So, Israel needs to wrap it up.
Well, somebody that is taking ideas seriously are the speakers at the Irreplaceable Spark Conference. It's October already, so October 25th and 26th, we have the conference in Orange County, California. So check out objectivism.co.uk. You can still buy your tickets. There's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a weekend conference. You'll be able to hear, as I said, from people who do take ideas seriously, not only take ideas seriously, actually apply them to their careers, and were able to succeed because of that. You'll be able to hear from many of them. So check out objectivism.co.uk. We also have a super chat from Bronx Guy Gun Hill Road. Thank you so much. A super chat from Gail. Thank you so much. And a super chat from Bonnie. Thank you so much. James, any last thoughts from you, and where can people find you?
Oh, well, you've heard my thoughts. I think it's people, we are suffering badly from a lack of good philosophy. What Stuart just said about pragmatism ruling the day is so true. There is no substitute for philosophy. This is where these things get decided. And, we need moral clarity. And this is one of the few places where you're going to find an alternative voice grounded in philosophy. So if you're not a paid subscriber to the Ayn Rand Center UK, please, my friends, hit like, hit subscribe, share it from social media, but become a paid subscriber to Ayn Rand Center UK. You're getting a perspective here that you get almost nowhere else on this subject, one that is grounded and rooted in sound moral principles. There's no division between the moral and the practical. And boy, you can really feel that on this issue with these people on the right. I'm James Stevens Valiant at Facebook, where I answer questions almost every day. Hit me up over there if you have a question. But otherwise, I'm here at the Ayn Rand Center UK.
And Stuart, any last thoughts, and where can people find you?
Yeah, I am also on Facebook, but as well, I have a Substack, stuartmargolis.substack.com. And I would add that, yes, you do get moral clarity here, but also, and I think even more fundamentally, it's epistemological clarity. And I think that more than anything is what's destroying the country. I think, yes, America needs moral clarity, but really America needs some good epistemological clarity. Otherwise, if we don't know how to evaluate anything, it's a real problem, as we are seeing.
Well, we'll continue covering all of this. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Daily Objective and the reality show. Until then, thank you guys for joining me today, and bye-bye.
Be safe.